He wanted to liberate the world. He wanted to burn it all down. In our timeline, he failed. But in this one, King Killmonger's war began. The sacred waterfall, once a symbol of continuity and honor, became a grave. Eric Stevens, known to the world as Killmonger, stood over the fallen body of his cousin, T'Challa. The challenge was complete. The Black Panther was dead. The heart-shaped herb, consumed not for protection, but for power, coursed through his veins, amplifying a lifetime of rage into a king's decree. The elders, bound by ancient law, had no choice but to kneel. The Dora Milaje, their loyalty sworn to the throne, not the man, stood as silent witnesses to a future they could not prevent. A new era for Wakanda had dawned, not in light, but in the shadow of a vengeful sun. With the full might of Wakanda at his command, King Killmonger wasted no time. His first act was not one of governance, but of global revolution. The Great Mound, the source of Vibranium and Wakanda's isolationist prosperity, was cracked open like an arsenal. Advanced sonic miners, previously used for careful extraction, now worked with a frantic, destructive urgency. The metal, once hoarded, was now mass-produced into instruments of war. Kimoyo beads, once tools of communication, were re-engineered as encrypted activators for sleeper cells. Royal Talon fighters, once symbols of Wakandan grace, were retrofitted into troop transports and gunships, their sleek designs now menacing. The assembly lines, once crafting medical marvels, now churned out sonic rifles, vibranium weave armor, and energy-bladed spears. The target for this unprecedented military industrialization was not a nation, but the entire global power structure. His network of war dog operatives, agents embedded in the disenfranchised communities he claimed to champion, received the signal. Coded transmissions, masked within global communication networks, carried a single galvanizing message. The sun has risen from the favelas of Rio to the housing projects of Chicago, from the neglected districts of London to the forgotten alleys of Seoul. The shipments began. Under the cover of darkness, cloaked Wakandan freighters descended, delivering pallets of technology that would forever alter the balance of power. The age of conventional warfare was over. The age of vibranium had begun. The initial strikes were brutally effective, a coordinated storm of chaos that caught the world's intelligence agencies completely off guard. In Washington, D.C., a small, well-armed cell used sonic cannons to breach the White House perimeter. The ensuing firefight turning Pennsylvania Avenue into a war zone. In London, operatives armed with vibranium spears disabled the city's power grid, plunging the financial heart of Europe into darkness before seizing control of Parliament. Uprisings, fueled by decades of resentment and now armed with futuristic weaponry, erupted simultaneously in over a dozen countries. Local governments, their police forces and militaries, equipped with archaic ballistics, were systematically dismantled. The world watched in horror as news feeds showed civilian militias, clad in black and gold, clashing with national armies and winning. The established order crumbled not in years, but in weeks. In the power vacuum, a new entity began to form, a loose but ideologically bound coalition of states loyal to their benefactor. Killmonger declared the birth of the Wakandan Empire, not a kingdom of peace, but a global dominion built on conquest. Yet, this empire was not one of order. It was a chaotic patchwork of warlords and revolutionary councils, each vying for influence, their only unifying principle being loyalty to Killmonger's vision of liberation through force. The world, however, did not simply surrender. The remaining global powers, primarily the United States, Russia, China, and the European Federation, formed a desperate alliance. Recognizing the existential threat, they pooled their resources, initiating a global conflict the likes of which history had never seen. This was not World War III or IV. This was World War V, the Vibranium War. The planet became a battlefield. Wakandan ships engaged in dogfights with F-35s over the skies of New York. Russian Spetsnaz, armed with experimental energy weapons, fought brutal urban campaigns against Killmonger's soldiers in the streets of Paris. The Earth was tearing itself apart, a global civil war fueled by Wakanda's gift. It was into this maelstrom of planetary self-destruction that a new, far greater threat arrived. From the cold, silent depths of space, a Q-ship descended, its purpose singular, its master relentless. The Black Order, the heralds of Thanos, came to Earth. Their intelligence had identified the location of the Mind Stone, held within the android Vision, who was sheltered in the one place they believed to be the most secure on the planet, Wakanda. But the Wakanda they found was not the hidden paradise of their intel. It was the epicenter of a global war. The nation's advanced energy shields, which in another timeline had held back an alien invasion, were flickering, their power diverted to fuel the ongoing global conflict. Its armies were not garrisoned at home. They were scattered across continents, bogged down in bitter attritional warfare. Killmonger, consumed by his earthly conquests, viewed the alien arrival not as an apocalyptic threat, but as another challenger to his throne. When Ebony Maw and Cull Obsidian landed on the outskirts of Berninzana, they were met not by a unified force of heroes, but by a fractured, war-weary garrison. There was no Captain America to lead the defense. There was no Scarlet Witch to hold back the tide. The Avengers, if they even still existed in this reality, were scattered, likely fighting their own desperate battles against Killmonger's forces elsewhere on the planet. The battle for Wakanda was a slaughter. The Black Order, alien technology, and disciplined outrider armies cut through the exhausted Wakandan soldiers with sickening ease. Killmonger, in his panther armor, confronted the invaders himself, a king fighting for an empire already in flames. But against the raw power of Cull Obsidian and the telekinetic mastery of Ebony Maw, even a vibranium suit was not enough. The fight was brutally short. The Mind Stone was ripped from Vision's head without ceremony. Thanos arrived on a world already defeated, a world so consumed by its own internal wars that it couldn't see the real enemy until it was too late. He collected the stone, added it to his gauntlet, and with all 6 Infinity Stones assembled, he raised his hand. There was no final stand. There was no heroic sacrifice. There was only the quiet, inevitable snap. Killmonger had wanted to burn the old world down to build a new one. In the end, his war simply cleared the board for a tyrant far greater than he could ever imagine.